Welcome to the Strong Dad Show with your host, Adam Lloyd. Together, we are stronger.
Guys, welcome back to the Strong Dad Show. We've got a special guest in today, Jon Hord from the Engaged Father Project. Jon, how's things, buddy?
Oh, couldn't be better, Adam.
Yeah? Good. How come?
I'll be honest, we were set to, if I can pull back the curtain a little bit right off the rip, our recording got pushed back 30 minutes. And so I found myself with some free time and I went and did some breath work that there's a guy on YouTube. Is it okay if I give a quick little plug?
100%, buddy. Do what you want.
There's this guy, breath work with Sandy, and he does these phenomenal, really intense breath work sessions. And I stumbled across him maybe a year ago, and I'm I'm ready to go, man. You're getting the best of me today, my friend.
Breath work with Sandy. I'll take a look at him, definitely.
Yeah, please do.
I do meditating, I do journaling. I've done a bit of breath work, but I've never really given it a fair chance. So I think I'm going to have to dive into that.
He's a winner, that's for sure.
Good. So what's going on then? What? I know we said this is going to be conversational style, but let's start with the Engaged Father Project. What is it?
So, very, directly, the Engaged Father Project, it's an 8-week coaching program for fathers, creating a space where dads can get really clear on the type of father that they want to be for their kids, really before, the clock runs out, meaning our kids grow up and they leave the house. And all of a sudden that opportunity that we had to not only spend these special moments with them, but to model behaviors for them, to really teach and support our kids and to set them up for a lifetime of hopefully, happiness. Our window is really pretty short. Everybody kind of says, 18 years, but it goes faster than that, or at least it feels like it does. And there's some sort of quick stats out there where it says that by the time your kid turns 12, that 75% of all of the in-person time that you're ever going to get with them is spent. And by the time they're 18, that percentage jumps up to 90, which is it's an alarming statistic. And yes, it's different for different people and situations and whatever, but it's helpful just to realize we've got a really short window to do, in my opinion, is the most important work that we can do. At least I'll just speak for myself. Setting my kids up for a successful life is job number one for me. And I help people get really clear on realizing the type of dad that they want to be. And then we help them get closer and closer to that and really step into that role.
I love that. We're going to dive into that a lot more in the following conversation, no doubt. I remember hearing a statistic before. Well, it wasn't a statistic. It was more of a fact. And someone was saying if your parents are saying 60, and the average age of them of people is 72. And you only see them once a year around Christmas. You're only really going to see them 12 more times. You think, I've got 12 more years left of my parents being in my life. Well, you're only going to see them 12 more times if you're only seeing them once a year. So I think that sort of reflects in what you've just said around the 75% by the time they're 12, 90% by the time they're 18. Is difficult to manage, isn't it? Because I was reflecting on it the last few days on the balance that we have to strike as modern men, where a part of us needs to provide, to protect, to earn a living, to pay for the roof over the heads, to pay for holidays. Therefore, you need to work for that. When deep down, all you want to do is spend more time with your children, and how you balance that is difficult.
Yeah, it is a challenge. And on some of the reels that I've put out on Instagram, one in particular where I was listening to a group of older fathers. They were in their 60s and 70s, and they were giving their perspective. And this one guy said, when you get to be my age, he said, you can take it from me. You're not going to wish that you had more stuff, and you're not going to wish that you had more me time to yourself. You're going to wish that you could go back and spend more time with your kids. And that video, it really took off. And it's been really well received and tons of really supportive comments. But some people, they take the approach of the economy is trash and we have to work really hard. And if we don't, we'll all be homeless. And And the point of the message that I was trying to communicate to people, it's not like quit your jobs and only spend time with your kids. You use that word balance, and that's going to mean something different to everybody, right? So it's, in my opinion, it's more about like take whatever time that you do have with your kids without making any changes right now. But like, what if you just made that time mean more to you as a dad and also for your kids? Um, phones, right? Like that's the number one target that steals our presence. And everybody knows that, and yet it still is a really steady distraction. So just taking some small steps. I worked with a guy. He went through the Engaged Father Project, and as a result of doing that, he came up with something called the No Phone Zone. And he doesn't carry his phone upstairs because that's where his two kids' bedrooms are. And so he'll leave it like on the banister if he's going up there, because often he'll go up there with his son and they'll just lay on the floor and play Legos. And he doesn't carry his phone upstairs anymore. So he didn't quit his job. He didn't make any big life changes. He just decided that this time is too important, and I'm aware of the distraction that a phone can be. So I'm going to put a rule in place that works for this house, that works for me, and it's like, and it's just really being intentional. And
Simple,
it's like
isn't it?
it's parenting with a goal in mind. And like people have goals, right? Like financial goals and professional goals and all those things. Like it's really sort of ingrained into us as people to have goals. But how many parents have ever really stopped to think about what their goal is as a parent beyond, being a good dad or being a good mom, right? I think that's sort of like the standard. I want to be a good
Yeah.
dad. And
What
that's
does that even mean? Isn't it? It can be different to each person.
yeah, no doubt.
One of my friends, John, does a similar thing. I think his rule in his house is even with the kids, they can have their tablets up until dinner time, so their evening meal. After that, all the tablets and the phones go away. It's colouring, it's drawing, it's reading. I want to say it's one of the balances which I struggle to maintain. So before I was doing my sort of online coaching, which I do now, I'd hardly ever have my phone on me because I wouldn't need it. It'd come like weekends, I literally wouldn't touch my phone. I'd lose it somewhere because I'd be like, well, I'm with my family, I'm with my fiance, I'm with the kids. They're the people who need to contact me anyway. Anyone else isn't going to be that urgent. So if I'm with them, I don't need my phone.
Yeah.
It's different now because trying to manage Instagram and manage clients and helping them get their fitness transformations and trying to generate new business and new clients. So I'll find myself going on my phone to do something, to complete a task. And 20 minutes later, I've completely forgotten what the task is because the algorithm has got me. And I definitely need to practice. And I have been practicing more that approach of, look, just don't have your phone with you. Because like you've said, your children want that time with you. They deserve that time with you. And it's one of the things I find hardest in life. It's bonkers when you say it. But the hardest thing I find in life is being present. Because I rarely ever think about the past, but when you're an ambitious person and you're trying to, I guess, grow a business, but also make sure that your family provided for in the future. And like I've done online ADHD tests, smashed all of them, definitely got it. I haven't gone down a diagnosis route because I don't need it. But my mind is like constant, there's always something in my mind. Like people will be talking to me and like I've had it before, like say a mother on the school run, she's talking to me and I've just like completely zoned out because I'm thinking on something else. But then she'll say to my fiance when she next sees her, I was talking to Adam, I could tell you weren't listening to me. And it's not me being rude. I just find it so hard to, like, it's different now. I find it easier on a podcast, but if I'm walking about, my head is all over the place. Like the fiance will send me downstairs to get something. 10 minutes later, I'll come back up with something completely different. Because by the time I've gotten to the bottom of the stairs, I haven't got a clue what I'm there for. Have you heard of the kitchen window concept?
I don't think I have. Tell me about it.
It might be called something different. There's many names for it, but the idea is, imagine you are in your backyard, and you'd probably call it a yard, 85 years old, and you walk up to your kitchen window to look into your house, and what you see through that kitchen window is your life when you was younger, when you're 30, 35 years old, when your children are still children, they're not 40 or 50, they're actually still babies. And it's using that concept to help you reflect on how you're living each day now. Because if you're 80, 85, you're looking through that kitchen window, what would you want to see? Would you want to see your children trying to get your attention and fighting your phone for your attention? Or would you want to see a completely engaged father drawing with the kids, throwing them up in the air and giving them love? And the concept is that you can't get that time back. You're looking through the window and you can't change anything. You can shout as much as you want. You can try and break through the window to say, "Hey, look at your children," but you can't do nothing. It's like,
you'd want to strangle that version of you that's investing that precious time into something meaningful, right? You'd be looking through the window and you're on the phone and you wouldn't remember what you were doing on the phone. So literally it would look like you're just wasting what you realize then later in life is truly one of the most valuable things that we'll ever encounter as a father. And what you're talking about, that level of awareness and just that perspective, it's so important because when you look at things through that lens of when I'm 85 and when life is slow and, money's probably not that big of an issue when you're 85 years old. And when those things quiet down, the important things really stand out among everything else. But like right now, when we're in the thick of it with, full schedules and jobs and investing, if we're married and we have a partner, like investing into that relationship, like it's a lot. Like we only have so much energetic capacity for any one day, but it's about being intentional with how we spend that energy that just lets us maximize the opportunity that is the day that we have or the present moment that we're in, right? Like I'll speak for myself again. If I show up every day like that, where I know that I'm being intentional with my energy and I'm investing it in things that I care in that will have a meaningful return, which again would be like my kids being well set up with emotional skills and self-love and knowing that they were supported and seen as a kid. If I'm investing my energy in things that will yield that return, then I win, right? By my own rules, that's success. A couple years ago, my metrics for what success meant to me changed significantly. And I reprioritized those things because I went through a really challenging moment, a challenging part of my life. And so I changed what the definition of success meant to me. And I was thinking about this a couple of days ago, like trying to kind of encapsulate the work that I do with fathers and like kind of like what my goal is for them. I'll back up for just a second. Like the Engaged Father Project, it's not, hey, I've figured out how to be a good dad and I'll teach you how to do what I did. Like follow these steps and be a dad like me. It's not that. It's working with people for them to really articulate what their own personal version of an amazing father looks like. And then we start tackling some of the things that get in the way of that, right? Like beliefs that we have about ourselves, deep-seated fears that are kind of like operating some things behind the curtain that might cause us to react in a way that we're not proud of. And we kind of dismantle some of those things. And then we start just taking intentional actions to help them get closer to the goal. And it really is unique to every individual. But my goal with the work that I do, it's so a father can get to that beautiful age of 85 years old and not feel the weight of that regret that they weren't intentional with their time, that they were distracted, that they were investing their energy and their emotional capacity into things that really didn't matter. They thought they mattered at the time, but as they went through life and they got more wisdom and better perspective, they now realize that those things didn't matter. It's helping people get an understanding of all of that now, while they still have this opportunity to be with their young kids. And,
essentially before it's too late.
Before it's too late, because I mean, I don't know. I've heard from lots of fathers on Instagram where they're carrying that weight of regret and they're pouring their hearts out, and it's hard to read. It's sad. And I can't imagine what that feels like to get to that point and just to be really carrying around that burden of feeling like you messed this up. And I know that I don't want to feel that way. And I'm on a mission to help as many dads not live with that regret later on in life.
No, I love that. It's definitely a good mission to wake up for, isn't it? And to get out of bed
Yeah.
for. You mentioned that reel, the big reel which you've put out, which has gained a lot of traction, and some people commented on it saying that, oh yeah, but the economy's trash and we got to work. I think that's a lot of people excusing their behavior, and a lot of people won't like me saying that, but people can take a lot more control of their lives than they give themselves credit for or want to accept. And what I mean by that is, first of all, the economy isn't impacting your ability to be a father. You can't blame the economy for you being distracted. Yes, you can blame the economy for you needing to work, but you're always going to need to work. The question is, what job are you working and what are you doing about it? And the reason I say that is because, I don't know, maybe, what do we know, 8, 9 years ago, before we had children, I was essentially a labourer. I was out on site, out on the roads, digging up, fixing water pipes, filling the holes back in, tarmacking over them, in the yard for 6:30 in the morning, sometimes getting back 10:30 at night. That's the job I had. I'm not in that job now. I'm in a much better position. But that was in my control. Nobody was going to change my job for me. Nobody was going to do my personal development for me. Nobody was going to put in the extra effort for me to break free of those chains to do something that I enjoyed more. So those people who are saying the economy's crashing, we've got to go out and work, yeah, 100%. But if you're willing to accept that position where you're having to work 12 hours a day and you're happy and willing to continue sacrificing time for your children in exchange for that job, then keep moaning about it. No one's going to change it for you. If you truly wanted to do something about it, like I speak to loads of guys on this podcast. I spoke to a guy called Tony Barrado a couple of weeks back. He has the term dadpreneur. He's a dadpreneur. Essentially, he's focused on being a dad and an entrepreneur. But he went through a similar thing. And in fact, that episode has been released today, Friday, the 19th of December. But he went through a similar thing where he was working a corporate career and chasing that career progression on the career ladder and stuff like that, but knew that's not what he wanted for his life as a dad. And he openly admits, yes, he's earning less money now, but he is a hell of a lot happier for it. He's a dadpreneur. He gets to run his own business and be a completely present dad. So people can blame the economy. People can allow themselves to feel more comfortable by passing the blame off on something else. But ultimately, it's down to each and every person. If you truly want to be more of an engaged father, it's down to you to change that or seek the support of someone like yourself. And you mentioned that your metrics for success are different now than what they used to be. Take me back to what they used to be and what changed. What did success used to look like for you, and what was that catalyst for change, and when did that happen?
Yeah. I was on a corporate path like you just described for the dadpreneur. You said his name was Tony?
Yes, Tony Barrado.
Yeah. I was on a similar path, right? I worked for a company for over 18 years. Started there part-time, ended up getting to the vice president level. Great company. And it always just felt like get another promotion, make more money, get more perks and go on more trips and then I'll be happy. And so I kept
I'll
sort
be
of
happy when.
Yeah, right. And I hit this point in my life where the work I was putting so much stress and pressure on myself that it started to boil over, right? Way too much stress, anxiety. I had my first panic attack. I wouldn't recommend those. And it was jarring, right? Like the a panic attack in and of itself is a very jarring experience, but the jolt that it gave me kind of just went beyond that isolated incident. It was like, well, what is happening in my life to where my body is reacting in this way? And it was a wake up call. It was like somebody kind of threw a cold glass of water on my face, and it's like, okay, how did we get here? And I realized that, it's like my goals were set on the horizon, right? Like no matter how much progress you make, you're never getting closer to the horizon. Your goals keep changing. The metric for success keeps growing. You see other people with more things and you think, oh man, look at all that. And so like the goal keeps changing in front of you and you really don't ever get closer to it. But when I went through this really challenging moment for myself, it gave me the opportunity to stop and reassess and ask myself, like, is this really what I want? Because when I did that, I was like, well, honestly, I was making more money than I thought I'd ever make as a professional. And I had all of these things, like all these other boxes were ticked, and I could go online and buy something and I wouldn't have to worry about whether or not I could afford it. Not like huge things. I wasn't driving around in fancy cars, but if I wanted a piece of gear or, I love being outdoors in nature. If I wanted a gadget or something for that, I could spend some money on it and not have to worry about it. And the material things were piling up. But because of this jarring moment, I was like, okay, well, I have those things. I thought they'd make me happy. And not only am I not like happy and walking on clouds right now, I just had a panic attack and I'm short fused at home and I can see that I'm not being the supportive husband that I want to be for my wife. And I'm not being the dad that I want to be for my kids. And so it was really like a fork in the road moment for me. And that kitchen window scenario that you talked about, I basically had that. It was instead of the kitchen window, I envisioned myself on my deathbed in my last couple days of life, looking back on that exact moment of time that I was sitting in and contemplating which of those two paths, right? I could stay at my job. It's secure. I could retire there. I could have all these material things. And it's the path that I always thought would lead me to happiness. Or it was this other path that was completely unknown. I've never been a big risk taker type of person. I've always really valued security, or at least up until that point, security was really high on my list of needs. But there was this other path and it was a total question mark and it was like shrouded in darkness. I didn't know what was there. But when I thought through the lens of that 85-year-old man that's only got a couple days left to live, and I essentially asked that person, like, what is the right path for me? I knew in an instant that I needed to try this path. I needed to take this swing. And I haven't looked back since then.
How long ago was that?
That was a little over 2 years ago.
Okay.
And, I've got very real things that I can point to that let me know that this is a success. And those are my kids. They talk about old me, the old version of me. And when they say things like that, that's how I know that I'm winning as a father, because I wasn't always proud of the things that old version of me would say or do. And my kids see the difference. And one of the things that I love doing with my kids is being really vulnerable as a dad. I love breaking down that sort of like that power, that imbalance of power between a father and their kids. I don't want to wield that as a stick, that because I said so and because I'm your father and that's why. I'm not saying that that's how other people should do it. I'm just talking about what I value. I love sort of leveling that playing field. Not that there's not boundaries for our kids and not that I don't make decisions that they don't appreciate in the moment. We're not letting them run wild, but I want them to feel like they're a real part of this household, in this family, and that they have a say in things. And one of the things that I do, especially like when we go through a challenging moment with one of the kids, is I'll circle back to them and say, how'd I do? And I'll just be silent and I'll get their feedback. And, my daughter's almost 13 and
360 feedback thing loop, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like looking for corporate feedback, but you're asking a 9-year-old for it because, I know that I've got more intention and I'm thinking through things. I'm responding instead of just reacting. And I know that I'm putting a lot more into the effort, into the moment. But I'm really interested on like what the net effect is, right? Like what's the impact on their side? How did they see me showing up in that moment? And I want to get that feedback. One, because it lets me do better, because like how they walk away feeling about that interaction means a lot to me. So I know that I'm trying hard, but I want to make sure that it's actually making the impact that I'm intending. And so it helps me do better. But when I put myself in their shoes and think about a father coming to a kid and saying, "Hey, that was hard, right? How'd I do? And not only how did I do, but how do you think I could do better?" I, I, I just, I don't know that I can't imagine what that must feel like for a kid.
Empowering.
I can feel what it feels like, and I want that for my kids. And so I keep doing that.
Definitely respectful of the child, and it is going to empower them, isn't it? And it's also, like you said, it's that vulnerability of admitting, I don't always know what I'm doing as a dad. I'm trying the best that I can. I want to be the best that I can, but there is no training for this. I laugh about it after we had our first child. I said that it's funny, in the corporate world, you can't even sit on a stool without a risk assessment or training on how to sit down, but yet you can have a baby and the hospital are just like, there you go, enjoy. I mean, it's like no training. There's no manual on this. There's probably some books out there. We definitely need a comprehensive dad manual, but yeah, there is no training. So it's opening up that vulnerability of being honest and saying, I don't always know what I'm doing. I want to be the best that I can be. And I want you to tell me how I'm doing. Could I have handled that situation better? And that's going to empower your child so much.
Yeah, I think so. I truly believe that it will. And that's one of my main focuses right now, personally, as a father, is being vulnerable and open like that. And also, if somebody is uncomfortable with asking that question, then I would want to talk to that person and ask them why, right? Like, what is it that you're afraid of? Is it just simply that you're afraid of getting some hard news from your kids? Like, if you give them permission to be really honest with you, are you afraid of what you might hear? Because if so, like, that's understandable. Like, it's not always easy to hear, like, hey, like, I know you're trying, but like, you definitely could have done better there. It's not an easy pill to swallow, but it's an important one in my book.
Yeah. And there's no one more important to get that kind of feedback from, is there?
No, who else? Like, I mean, you could ask some other parenting guru and you could get their advice, and they might be a really smart person, and they might have good things for you to try. But like what you just said is like, we're going like right to the source, to the kid that was involved in that moment with you. And you're asking them, how did I do? And what could I have done better? And it's not like, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you ever handle a situation poorly, recognize that afterwards, and without having to ask your children, apologize? Like you've handled a situation poorly and you don't need that feedback, because straight off you're like, oh yeah, I got too angry there, and you got to say, I'm sorry for the way that I handled that.
Yeah, for sure. I think apologizing when we make a misstep, because we're human beings, we're not trying to be perfect here. We're trying to do our best, but sometimes we're going to make a mistake, and there's something that's stirring inside us, like something that's deeply seated, maybe something we experienced in our childhood, whatever, that's causing us to have this, maybe an oversized reaction in the moment. And yeah, you go and apologize. And I like explaining that, like, hey, that was some of my stuff that sort of came out in that moment, and it caused me to react this way, and that's not fair to you. And I'm sorry. And I'm not trying to justify what I did, but I want you to know that I'm looking inside myself at the things that caused me to show up in a way that I don't want to do, and I'm working on that. And again, it's some of that vulnerability, like, of just letting your kids know, like, I'm trying to do better for you. And again, when I put myself in their shoes and think about what that must feel like, it's worth the effort for me. There's no doubt.
That is teaching them the importance of reflection, isn't it? Because you're not saying, go and reflect on how you handle that. By you saying, this is almost an explanation, or this is some of my stuff and this is why I handled it, that you're indirectly showing them the importance of reflection, because they'll be thinking, well, if my daddy had his own difficulties or struggles and he handles situations wrong, but he's recognizing that, I think they'll start to see the importance of reflection on how they handle things as well. What triggered me? Why did I handle? How could I have handled it better? And eventually they'll be coming up to you and saying, before you go to speak to them, saying, Daddy, I'm sorry for how I handled that. I've got some
Yeah.
of my own stuff going on in third grade.
Yeah, and to like carry that ripple effect out even like in an additional direction is they'll take that sort of reflection and they'll be able to have like empathy and understanding for other relationships in their life. Like maybe it's one of their peers at school that like said something, like made a really cutting remark to them. And I've heard my daughter say this to me. Like she's in 7th grade and she'll say like, I wonder like what they've got going on in their life that would make them say that. And I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
it's again, it's not to justify if somebody does something that's cruel, it's not giving them a pass because they're going through something challenging, but just stopping to think like what else could be true like in this moment, like what else could be going on? Like what's underneath that's causing them to say this or to react this way? It's such a powerful moment. And you use the word reflection, and I think that really nails it perfectly. There's so much power and there's so much understanding that can come as a result of us just taking 5 or 10 seconds to be open and considerate that there's other things at play that we're not aware of. It makes me feel better as a person. It kind of opens up that loving part of me where it's like, okay, like maybe they're just going through something hard. Um, so I feel better. And then it also allows me to respond in a different way. Now, maybe they're just having a rough day and they're just mad and they're just being a jerk. Like that's on the table too, right? Like not everything is like excusable, but let's say that like an interaction happens and I never really learn like what was happening that caused that, or maybe there wasn't something. If I take that moment to be empathetic and to reflect, I feel better walking away from that interaction, just knowing that I stopped to give it some consideration for just a couple seconds.
It's like
So,
they say about apologizing. It's not for them, it's for you. It's sort of like a similar effect there, isn't it? If say you do something wrong and you apologize, the power of the apology is not in making that other person feeling better, but it's almost lifting the weight from yourself as well. And it's similar to what you just said there. It's reflecting not to excuse them, but to make yourself feel more comfortable with the situation or more understanding of the situation. Have you heard of there's a Japanese sort of, I forget the term they use, would it be Japanese parable or Japanese story? And it basically says, it's about a young Japanese student carrying a woman across the river. Have you heard that one?
Maybe, but
Yeah.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I might get it wrong, but essentially there's like a Japanese teacher, master, and his young student are walking, reflecting on the day, going through some lessons, and they reach a river, and there's a woman who needs help getting across the river. Now, the Japanese master, and he says to his student, we're not supposed to talk to the women. We're not supposed to help them. Keep moving. The student goes against his master's word and essentially helps the woman across the river, picks her up, carries her across the river. They all get across the river, part ways. The master and his student keep walking for the rest of the day. Now, towards the end of the day, the Japanese master, the teacher, is still angry at the student for defying him and going against his word and helping the woman and carrying her. And the student says something along the lines of, I dropped that woman at the river's bank, yet you're still carrying her. It's the whole concept of, I'm done with that. I'm not even thinking about it. And I'm the one who did the bad deed, but yet you're the one carrying the weight of it now. You're the one who's still upset about it.
Yeah. Oh, my daughter, again, she's almost 13. Her birthday's coming up soon. And here's another metric of success, or something that lets me know that what I'm doing means that I'm successful as a father. She'll coach me as a kid. Like I went and I got certified as a coach, and it's what I do professionally. And to be coached by a 12-year-old, because this happened maybe 4 or 5 months ago, is incredible. To know that she's learning some of these skills to be able to help people through challenging times. And so my daughter and I were on a bike ride, and we're on a path that's not that wide. And this guy comes like flying past us on one of those electric bikes, an older gentleman. And he he didn't hit any of us, but like if my daughter would have swerved a little bit, it would have been a massive collision. And we were like right by a busy road. So like who knows what could have happened, right? And so like Papa Bear mode comes out and I'm really upset. I was like, it's not that hard to slow down, just to say like coming around on your left. Maybe he had a little bell, maybe he didn't, but like just common courtesy is all I'm looking for. Like don't put me and my daughter in danger when we're out on a bike ride on a summer evening. And so like I can even feel myself like kind of clenching up now as I described that. I was just really
I am as
incensed.
well.
Yeah. And so he goes up and he's ahead of us and then he turns left and we keep going straight and we're still riding and I'm just still really bothered by it. And my daughter rides up beside me and she said, "Do you think he's still thinking about us?" And I'm like, wow. I was like, no, he probably never did. And I'm almost positive that he's not thinking about us now. But here I am thinking about him. I'm feeling all of these, angry emotions and I'm clenched up and I'm clearly not happy. But in that moment, like life was perfect. Like all of the elements were there for a for a perfect experience of life and being a father. It's me and my daughter. We're on our bikes. There's beautiful things to look at. It's like a perfect summer evening. Like it was dusk and like the sun was starting to set. Like everything was incredible around us. And I was pointing my attention at this one person and she called me on it. And it was really helpful in the moment, but like I was so proud as a dad and I'm proud of myself. I don't mind saying that I set off on this path to do all of this work, this transformative work on myself for me to get an understanding of like how I want to be as a dad. And to know that she's picking up on that and that she's putting that into action to help other people was just a really defining moment for me as a dad and just as a human being, quite honestly.
That is beautiful. And the fact that she's picking up on that. And so right. Like you said, you had a perfect evening and everything for a perfect time with your daughter, but then you're getting dragged out of the present because you're thinking about this man who is not at the moment thinking about what he did to you. So
Yeah.
from all the work you've done with dads then, through the Engaged Father Project, what do you see as the biggest issues or pain points? Is there a common theme you see dads coming to you with?
Yes, and I would say that it's what we've been talking about. It's the pull of life's busyness. And, these fathers, like they've got good intentions. And again, they're good dads, right? The people that I'm working with, like they're not far at like the end of the spectrum where you would say like, oh man, they're a terrible father, right? The people
Well, the
that I
fact
work
that they're
with,
working with you, the fact that they come to you for help shows that they're a committed dad.
no doubt. But they've felt that sting of a couple moments where they're like I might not be doing this as good as I want to. But yeah, it's really hard to balance everything when it feels so full and so busy. But when we walk through the program and they start to get this clarity on the type of dad that they want to be and why they want to be it and what will come as a result from that, and they start to realize like this small moment of time that we described earlier with our kids before they grow up and leave the house, like we as a father, we've got an opportunity to be intentional with like where we direct our family tree. Like we have an opportunity. And if we don't take it now, it will slip through our fingers because if we just sort of drift into autopilot mode and we do what other people are doing around us as dads and we are just in this good dad mode, then more than likely we're just going to pass along any of the garbage that we might have inherited as a kid or any of the deep-seated fears that we've come to believe that are true over our time as a human being. For the most part, we're going to pass that on to our kids. And there's a lot of responsibility there, in my opinion, to not do that, but also like to the good side of things. So like stopping the bad stuff from continuing on, that's great. A lot of value there. But to be really intentional and say like, I want my family tree like to go this direction for these reasons. And like, that's leaving a legacy, right? And like, That is one of the things that really drives me the most in this work that I do. It's knowing that this work is generational, right? We're showing our kids how to be, for me, are like a really loving and compassionate father and parent to them. And they're going to carry that on. And then that will be passed on to their kids, which would be like my grandkids. And then their kids will pass that on. And so like this work that I'm doing with these fathers, it will affect generations that won't ever be alive. We won't ever share space on this planet, but they will feel the positive effects of the work that their grandfather or their
Legacy,
great
isn't it?
grandfather did. And like, I know that I want to do that as a father. I want to be really intentional with the legacy that I leave because we're going to leave one whether we like it or not. So we can get intentional with it and actually make some decisions here or not. But I know that I want to do that, and to know that I can support other fathers in this way, to be really intentional and to make this lasting change, like that puts the wind in my sails. I think it's so incredibly cool to stop and ponder the ripple effect of what we can do right now. And yeah, it is absolutely one of the reasons why I do what I do.
Yeah, I get the exact same when I'm working with dads on their health and fitness, regaining strength, giving them the confidence, and it's having that similar thought that you just had as, if I can show a dad the importance of health, fitness, maintaining a strong body, exercise, nutrition, then he gets his children involved. His children are more likely to grow up healthier and strong and live a stronger life, active in the gym, eating the right kinds of food, prioritizing their health, their fitness, really looking after themselves. And they're then going to pass that on to their children and their children. And it's definitely an empowering thought. But taking it back a step then, I guess, doing that in rewind, what was your dad like? Or what is your dad like?
Yeah, I have a great dad. And there was a really interesting moment when I think about going through my coaching certification process, because it was really in depth. It was like a 10-month process, and we
Is
do
that,
like
sorry,
a
is that
lot.
like a life coaching kind of thing, or?
It is.
Right.
Yeah. And it was like, I tell people that it was like a 10-month process, and half of the work is doing like introspective and transformational work. And then like the other half is working with, how to be a coach for people and how to support them through all this. But I had a great dad, and we did lots of cool things. He does carry some regret about prioritizing work at times, and he has come to this realization. I don't know when he came to it, but he's expressed it later in life. He's in his 70s, but he said I was away too often. His job would take him away to other countries, and he feels like he missed too many important moments because of work travel. So he is carrying some of that regret. But when I was going through this coaching certification process, we went through an exercise where we write down a list of things that we believe to be true. And they just say, start writing it down. Say, I believe that, and then you fill it in. Then you start writing. Well, like the very first one that I wrote down, and it kind of surprised me because it's not something that I would consciously think about all the time, was I believe that if you're going to do something, do it well. And it took me back to my garage when I was a kid. I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and I can hear my dad saying that. And I understand his intention with that phrase. Like it's something that his dad said to him, and it's saying, put your best foot forward. If you're going to do something, like do a good job, right? Like it's being said with love and with good intention, right? But I can see when I look back on my life, when I said earlier that I was someone that was very like averse to risk and I really valued security, it ties back into that because I put the expectation on myself that if I was going to do something, that it was going to be excellent. And if I wasn't completely sure that it was going to be excellent, then I wouldn't do it. And I would just sort of stay small. And like that would show up with like my outward physical actions. But I also felt it like socially, right? Like being in a social setting and like you have like the idea to say something. And then I would kind of like run it through this analyzer, like, well, what are they going to think about it? Is it really worth it? Like, oh man, I don't want somebody to be upset by it. And like, it's not even worth it. Right. And so I really sort of, I carried that around with me for a long time. And once I was able to see that, I was like, okay, wow, like
Mm.
this makes sense. And I'm not blaming my dad for saying it. Cause again, like I know it was coming from a place of love, but we do this exercise, you write down this belief and then you rewrite some of those beliefs that maybe aren't working for you the way that you'd want them to, and you transform them. And so I rewrote, if you're going to do something, do it well. And I changed that to, if you're going to do something, do it with passion, because that works for me in every scenario. And that's something that I don't have any reservations of passing that on to my kids. If you're going to do it, like just really do it, right? Like go all in, whether it succeeds or it fails, just be passionate about it.
That is powerful. So what do you think then, and like you said, your dad passed that on to you and you've transformed it into, if you're going to do something, do it with passion, which you pass on to your children. How important is it to either or strike a balance between allowing your children to grow up into the person that they're going to be naturally, or trying to almost influence and embed a set of philosophies, morals, and behaviors? What do you think? And is it something I've never really thought about, but just in this conversation with you now, I'm thinking, yeah, how important is that balance of having a set of family morals? Like if you said to me, what's the most important moral? Integrity. Always has been, always will be. I think it's incredibly powerful for someone to live with a high level of integrity in their life. A lot of people will disagree with me. That's absolutely fine. But how do we approach that with our kids? What's your thoughts?
Well, you asked how important it is, and I would say it's incredibly important. And you also touched on the fact that it's different for different people. And having that understanding of like there's not one set of morals or a code that works for everybody. So again, like as a father or as a parent, like take the time to get really clear on what is really important to you. And then like kind of like stress test it a little bit or try to take a different perspective to make sure that it really does work for you on a very deep level, right? And maybe you'll discover something like, you know what, that's been really important to me, but that's because I'm afraid of my kids failing. And so like I want my kids to be really successful. And so if you're going to do something, do it well. And, then you'll get promoted and you'll have money. And that way you never have to struggle like I did. If I was a kid and my upbringing was really scarce and we didn't have money for the necessities, I would understand why somebody might put a really high value on something like material success. So like have your values that you want to pass along, but really sort of look at them very clearly and just make sure that you're good and comfortable with it from all levels. And then I think it is your opportunity to try to instill those things into your kids because you believe wholeheartedly that it will benefit them as a person. I think that's a very important component of it. I'm almost like visually, I'm seeing like the yin and the yang here, where there's like you're trying to strike a balance between being intentional with those things and then also supporting your kids in a way to where they can grow up to be the person that they want to be and that they were meant to be, and to know that they don't have to grow up and just be a mirror image of their parents. Like they are different. They are different people. And one of the things that I kind of like to remind myself of as a dad is I'm not the bonsai master where this tree is growing and I'm using wires to direct the branches and I'm clipping every little branch so that it grows into this thing that is an example of my vision of beauty or perfection. That's not the role that I want to play as a father. To continue the plant analogy, I want to be the sun and I want to be the water and I want to be the soil. And I want to give them the essential components so that they can grow strong in any direction that they see fit. And that's a personal choice for me. And I would assume that there are people listening that disagree with that. I've seen it in some of the comments where they go kind of towards the, spare the rod, spoil the child. Like it's your job as a father to like set them on this path. And if you don't, there's peril when they get off this path. If that's what you believe in and that's how you want to raise your kids, like, of course, it's your right to do that. It's not for me.
So continuing that plant analogy again, then, what if you are the water, you're the soil, you're the sun. What if they start to grow in some grotesque, deformed way, which you see as an ugly bonsai tree? I guess against the morals that you have or the way you think they should be living their lives. Where do you intervene? Do you intervene?
It would depend. Like if it's something personal, like they start wearing clothes or they get a piercing that I find to be really unappealing, personally, that is their choice. I'm going to say it's age dependent. If my 9-year-old says they want to go get a nose ring right in the center, we're going to have a conversation about that one. But when they start to become old enough to make those decisions for themselves, if they go down a path like that just isn't for me and I think is unappealing, it's my choice to let my kids express themselves. Now, if it's getting into a territory where it's like their safety or their health is coming into consideration, like if it's something with substance abuse or they just decide at the ripe old age of 15 that they want to start vaping, again, totally different conversation. And we're going to establish some rules and some boundaries around that. So it's sort of a nuanced question that you asked. And I would say that like my answer or my opinion on it would just really be sort of dependent on the situation, which is multifactored, right? Health, safety, age, all those things.
Which then leads on to the question of how we balance being the nurturers, but also then, maybe an extreme word, but the enforcers as well. What's your thoughts?
Well, again, find that balance, right? I've walked through tough scenarios with my kids where they're really unhappy with the answers that they get, but I'll kind of break down the wall or kind of lift the curtain, if you will, and I'll let them know like, hey, like, I'm sorry that you're upset with this. And I know it's not the answer that you want, but if you're able to, try to have a little bit of perspective of the things that I'm considering when I'm making this decision. And I've said before, like, hey, just so you know, like, it would be way easier for me to say yes to this thing that you want. Like, I'm making the hard decision that I know you're not going to be happy with, and it's going to be a challenging moment, but I'm making the hard decision because it's what I believe to be the correct decision right now. And I think that's a helpful bit of perspective for our kids to have, for them to maybe consider some of the things that are kind of going through our heads as we're, navigating these tough choices.
So take me through then the Engaged Father Project. 8-week program, you said, isn't it?
Yeah.
What kind of things do you cover? And I know you said, which is really good, which I know a lot of guys will take a lot of value from, is that it's bespoke to the individual in the sense of how do you define an engaged father? What do you want to get from it? But take me through, I guess, the mechanics or the fundamentals of what would someone get if they was going to join the Engaged Father Project? Is it a do it yourself, go through the modules and watch these videos and learn this course? Is it one-to-one coaching? Is it group coaching? Do they get a development plan of sorts? Take me through those mechanics.
Yeah. So it varies. So it's 8 weeks. By nature, it's a group coaching program. So it's other dads that will go through this program with you because there is tremendous value. And this is not me just taking a guess. This is people that have gone through it. When you ask them, like, what are some of the things that really helped you through this program? The community and going through this with other dads is really high on their list. So just being in a space where we can really sort of let our guard down, take our armor off with these other dads and start to open up. And, it's not very common for fathers to have a space where they can go like, man, parenting's hard, right? And like, sometimes we don't know what to do. And sometimes I'm scared when I think about these things. Those aren't common conversations that happen. So to be in a space where you can share things like that is, it does a lot of heavy lifting for sure. But it doesn't have to be group. If somebody, doesn't want to do that and that just doesn't work well for them, we can also do it one-on-one. But they're live calls. We meet once a week. They're 90-minute calls. And there's like an overarching sort of structure to the 8 weeks. It's an acronym that I came up with called STEP. So STEP. S being strategy, which is again where we we articulate and help you discover what that goal is, like have a target in mind. And then T is like the transformation part where we start to work on like, what are the things that you keep bumping your head on that are keeping you from being that ideal version of the father that you want to be. And E is enrichment. It's that sun, the water, the soil. It's how can we really like pour positive things into our kids' experience with this goal in mind of like how we want them to feel. Like asking the father, like, how do you hope your kids will describe you as a dad? Again, it's unique to every father. But then it's like, okay, if those are the words that are important to you for how you hope they would describe you down the road, let's start doing some things that align with that goal in mind. Like if you want them to feel safe and supported, start doing more things on a day-to-day basis that help them feel safe and supported. And then the last part of it is P, which would be progress. And it's really putting some structure in place to where they can take this momentum that they're inevitably feeling by the 8th week of the program. They've learned all this stuff and they've got like so much clarity about how they want to be as a dad and like they're feeling really great. Well, like let's put some structures in place that will help you maintain this momentum, because everybody or a lot of people have certainly experienced that sort of workshop high, like where you do something really intense for a day or a couple days and like you run out of there feeling like you could run through a brick wall. But if you don't put some structure in place to actually help you maintain those new habits, I mean, it's the New Year's resolution thing, right? Like 80 to 90% of New Year's resolutions are done before January's over. It's that. So like, let's put some structure in place because you've decided that these things are important to you. So let's make sure that you just don't revert back to whatever old version there was of you before you showed up on the first week, because you yourself decided that it was too important to continue to be that previous version of you. So you've changed, you've grown, you're looking at things differently. Like, let's just keep going. And at a high level, that's how it works.
Yeah. The importance of reminding them of why they started almost, isn't it? Because like you said, someone can be motivated when they're in a group coaching call, but after a few weeks, the drive may drop a little bit and they'll start reverting back to bad habits. One of my friends had an issue where he was chasing business growth for a long time and he didn't really spend much quality time with his baby daughter until a situation almost forced itself upon him where he had to spend one-on-one time with her. It sounds extreme, but I won't go into the details, I guess, to protect his privacy. But then he's like, oh my God, I've just spent this time with my daughter for the first time, she was under a year old. And it was amazing. I didn't have my phone. I didn't have my laptop. It was just one-on-one time. It was beautiful. And I basically said to him, I said, do you feel guilty that you hadn't done that before? He's like, great. He was like, yeah. And I said, great. I said, carry that guilt. I said, don't excuse yourself. I said, if you carry that guilt every day, it's going to remind you not to fall back into bad habits. If you start thinking of it with a perspective of, I'm so glad I did this and it was so beautiful, I'm so glad I've been awakened to the quality time to spend with them now, that might last a week or two. And then you're back into bad habits and you're spending too much time on your business and you're not having quality time with the children. But I said, if you carry that guilt with you, it'll almost be an enforcer, a catalyst for change, something which will make you like a crowbar pulling the door open. I still remember how crap I felt that was the first time. So I'm going to close my laptop now and I'm going to go and do it again.
I love that. That's excellent advice.
Where can people find out more about you, Jon? Where can they find out more about you, about your course, about the material, the knowledge, the help that you put out to the world?
Yeah, theengagedfatherproject.com. That's my website. I would love for anybody that's listening to go find me on Instagram at The Engaged Father Project and find that post that I was talking about earlier. I had one that just really blew up at the time that we're recording here. It's pushing 600,000 views, which has been really fun. If you want to find that post and engage with it, and so I can continue to spread this message of love and hope and positivity, I would really appreciate that. And I also offer something that I call the Engaged Father Jumpstart. It's absolutely free. And I work with people. It's one-on-one, and we set up 5 meetings in 5 days. Just 30 minutes apiece. And it is a taste of the work that we get to do within the larger Engaged Father project. I will tell you, it's not a 5-day sales pitch. It really is something that delivers value. And there's a letter that one of the dads wrote to his kids as a result of going through this free little 5-day program. And it's so powerful and so moving. And I read the letter, I created a video, and it's on my YouTube channel, which again is the Engaged Father Project. If you want to go check that out, you can see it there.
I'll link it all in the show notes as well. So I'll make sure I get the links right before we publish anything.
Thank you. But it's a free 5-day opportunity at no cost for dads that are feeling the weight of this opportunity right now. And maybe they're just not sure that they want to jump in and do the full 8 weeks, or maybe they just simply can't afford it right now. It's an opportunity for people to grow. And so clearly, because it is one-on-one, it's not something that I could do a ton of. So it's fairly limited. And Adam, as a thank you to you and to the listeners of your show, if you find me on Instagram and just send me a DM and let me know that you heard me on the Strong Dad Show. And in addition to doing the free 5-day program with you, if that's something that you'd like to do, I'll throw in a free 1-hour coaching session on top of that. So in total, it would be about a 2.5 hour total working time with me. And we're in the holiday season, and I'm feeling giving, and I just want to show my appreciation to you and also your audience. So if that's something that you feel like you'd like to take advantage of, again, jump over to Instagram at the Engaged Father Project and send me a direct message and let me know that you heard me on this show, and we'll do some amazing work together.
Well, that was unexpected. I appreciate that, John. I'll make sure, like I said, even more reason now to make sure I get all of the links correct in the show notes. But you heard it here, guys. It's simple, isn't it? If you want to be a better father and you've listened this far into the episode, there's a reason that you're listening and you want to be a better dad. You know you can be a better dad, and John is giving you that opportunity to be a better dad. So the links will be in the show notes. Jump over to his Instagram, let him know you heard him on the Strong Dad Show, and get yourself set up for some coaching.
Do it.
John, any last minute bits of advice for the dads listening?
If you feel something right now, if you listened and you felt something stir inside you, don't let that go. It's so easy to let that pass, and you'll go back into the rhythm of life. This message is finding you right now, and the potential to make a meaningful change that can literally last for generations, far beyond our personal time here spent on this planet. Take me up on this. If you want to do the full program, great. It's fantastic. I just wrapped it with somebody. I took a guy through it one-on-one. He couldn't say enough good things about it. But if you're not ready for that right now, take me up on the free thing, and you will not regret it.
Thank you very much for joining us on the Strong Dad Show. I'm going to have to bring you into our Strong Dads community as well to share some wisdom throughout the community of dads that we've got there. But John, thanks for joining us on the Strong Dad Show.
Thank you, Adam. It's been a real pleasure.